Welcome back to the Whiskey Wisdom Podcast, everybody. This is your co-host, Tyler Yaw, and today I'm with
Chris Kellum.
And our special guest today is
Nick Rizzo.
Thanks so much for coming on, Nick. You are actually a referral to come onto the podcast, and then we got to know each other, which was awesome. And the referral for anyone who's been watching for any amount of time was Catherine Bruner, who has been on the podcast, I think, more than anyone else has been on the podcast at this point.
Not true.
I
outranked Catherine.
Okay, other than Chris, whose podcast it is. But other than that. So thank you so much for coming on, Nick. Today, since we're doing our special thing that we're doing in here at the Azalea Station, we're doing a dry run, so we're not going to have any alcohol. Chris drinking on water. Nick staying completely dry. And I am having some decaf coffee.
It is from Blue Cup.
It is from Blue Cup. So make sure you support Blue Cup, which is also inside of Azalea Station. Or if they're not open, you can walk across the parking lot to the other Blue Cup and get some coffee there.
Nice.
But without further ado, Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. So I've been working in the video, social media space for the past 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And then more recently just started working specifically with local service businesses to help them grow their businesses with social media.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
So how did you first get involved in the video and marketing side?
Yeah, good question. So I started out in college. I went to school to study exercise, like exercise science.
Oh, no way. Okay.
And while I was in college, I was learning videography and how to do photos and things like that with a good friend of mine. So that's where I was developing those skills in terms of content creation, video editing, learning all of that stuff alongside going to school and learning how to become a personal trainer. So after I graduated college, I started training and working with people and doing that primarily. But I was also building that skill set too of content creation, video, photo, and doing that on the side, kind of like freelancing. So as it evolved over time, I just got better and better with those skills and kind of developed like the networking skills through training, and then learned more of the business and marketing skills as of lately, and just combined everything to kind of get to where it is now.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So where did the kind of, I guess, branch off from training into videography come from? Like, what made you like, hey, you know what? Like, I went to school for this, but man, I really want to do that. So where did that come from?
Yeah, so it's funny, like the passion for fitness and exercise and helping other people, I kind of use video as a way to like bridge that. Like I was filming and helping my friend create content because he had a personal training business.
Okay.
So it was kind of early on. It was like, okay, I kind of see how I can use this as a tool like for a business or to market. So even though I was doing it for fun at the time and like, oh, I just like making videos and filming and like recording and stuff in the gym with friends and making videos and being able to do that, but then also take it a step further and be like, okay, we can actually use this as like an asset to like generate a return or to market our business or whatever it might be. So just kind of constantly learning and having fun while doing that so that I could develop the skills more and actually stick to it. And then being able to apply them in a way that is, you know, beneficial to what I want to accomplish or to what someone else in their business wants to accomplish.
Yeah.
That's neat. So did it start out first as kind of like a side hustle, or did you like, hey, you know what? I really like this. I'm going all in.
Yeah, 100% side hustle.
Yeah.
Just freelance, any job, we would go pitch to like restaurants, local car dealerships, any sort of local business that was in our area. We were in a college town. We would just try to pitch to anybody. Hey, we'll shoot you some videos, we'll shoot you some photos, whatever it might be. And that was like the main, you know, kind of hustle of just starting out and figuring out, oh, wow, we can actually like make a little bit of money doing this sort of thing. So that's kind of what got us like initially interested in it.
Oh, sweet. What college town were you in?
Greenville.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
ECU,
for sure.
yeah. Yep.
There you go. Go Pirates.
See, I spent 8 years up there.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Did you go to college?
Yes.
ECU?
Well, I went to ECU for like, just shy of a year. But
Nice.
I was stationed in the National Guard up there. So I went back and forth from here to ECU for 8 years.
Nice, man. Thank you for your service, man. Yeah.
So when you started up there and kind of got it going, was it a big transition? Or actually, first of all, let me ask, because I don't know this. Did you come straight down here, or did you kind of travel around before you ended up in Wilmington?
Yeah, so I come from a military family, kind of same background. We moved around a whole lot. So I went to college in Greenville at ECU, and after I graduated, I moved to Virginia Beach, and that's where my dad was stationed at the time. So I would go back during the summers, work a summer job there. And by the time I graduated, I already had an internship lined up at a gym in that area to start personal training.
Oh,
Nice.
So that's what brought me to Virginia Beach. I stayed there for about 6 years, just all training and still building up the video stuff on the side, kind of freelance stuff. Kind of unsure of like what direction I wanted to go with it. But then I did have an opportunity come up to move out here in Wilmington and do content creation, social media stuff full time for a real estate company. And that was when I kind of took the leap of, okay, I'm doing training full time and just doing the video stuff on the side. But then this opportunity came up. So when I moved here a year ago to Wilmington, I just started doing all social media content creation full time and never did any more training. So just kind of made that switch within the past about year or so.
Oh, sweet.
Nice.
So when you started out with the real estate company, was that still kind of like a 1099 type of thing, or did they pull you on to make their main content and you were just also doing some stuff on the side?
Yeah, good question. So I was actually considered an employee, but it was kind of a loose agreement because it was such a new thing for this company. They didn't specifically know exactly what they were looking for in terms of content, but they could see the direction that just the whole kind of marketplace was going, right? Like, hey, social media is becoming a thing. There's a demand for this video thing. We don't know specifically what it looks like, but we know that you have the skill set and we want you to come, start helping us do this. So it was structured in a way where I could still work with other clients and kind of do other things as well. But I was also dedicating majority of my time to help them and really try to get the best results I could for them. So they structured it in a way where it was beneficial for me, where I could continue growing, but I could also still help them and kind of give them the full attention that they needed too.
That's a fantastic way to kind of get that jumping point there.
Blessed, man. Yes. Blessed to be able to have that sort of opportunity. Is very, very lucky.
That's neat.
So, because we have a lot of business owners that listen to this podcast and entrepreneurs, you said you're working with service. What do you mean by that? Because typically when I hear service, I'm like, oh, it's service industry, which is typically like restaurants, bars. But what are your current type of clients and who are you looking for the next wave of clientele? Yeah,
good question too. So when I say service, like service-based businesses, I just see businesses as either they are selling a product, like a physical product, or they are selling a service, right? Like some sort of consulting. It could be a home service. It could be like a mold remediation company.
Okay.
Or it could be a spray tan business. It could be sunset boat cruises, right? Any sort of service that is sold versus like a physical product is who I feel like I can help get the best results for.
Yeah.
So how'd you start with having that service-based interest? Because of having the training background, or is it you just noticed hey, it's so much easier to sell what you're providing as opposed to an actual product?
Yeah. So for me, I'm so obsessed with the marketing and sales side of things and business side of things. So the way I see it and the way I understand it is in order to sell, a service, whether it's like a low ticket or a high ticket service, especially, there's going to be a lot of trust that needs to be built into that sort of sale, right? Like if you were to hire a coach or a consultant, you're going to have to really know this person and trust them and feel like you understand them before you're willing to buy from them, right?
For sure.
And that sort of sales process and cycle can apply to any sort of business, right? Any sort of transaction. But I think it's interesting to me because selling a service, you can really use video content to educate your customers and to build trust with them before they ever even meet you or know you. And that way, by the time it comes time for that person to make a decision and decide if, hey, I want to buy this or I want to move forward with this, your video content has already done a bulk of the heavy lifting. So in terms of a service, working with service businesses specifically, I think for me, it's the best way for me to kind of help that business is just because I kind of understand it. I myself am a service-based business.
Right.
So all of my marketing is kind of based around myself. I'm almost marketing to myself in terms of a customer avatar, right?
Right.
So I just find I relate the most with that, and it just makes sense the most to me, in my mind at least.
Right. I want to come back around to that too, but my question before that is, when you're creating this product that you're going to go out to, do you help the actual service company come up with the ideas for how to create that trust? Or is that kind of hey, come up with your idea, you tell me, and we get going? Or maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. So it's definitely collaborative, right? I always want to see what their brand, idea is and their story and those sort of things, because that's super important to incorporate into their marketing, right? Because that's going to differentiate you, from me, from everybody, right? We all have our own unique story. So we definitely want to include that within someone's marketing plan. But in terms of the balance, I think for me, I just like to see a certain framework for things, if that makes sense. So let's take like a basic Instagram post, right? If you're thinking of like a short form piece of content where it's someone talking to a camera, a lot of the times you just want to structure that with a strong hook at the beginning, right? Have some sort of story, maybe a problem or a solution come up, and then finish that with some sort of call to action. So that's the type of things that I like to implement and see with my clients and the content that they create. But their job is to inject themselves into that framework. So you create a hook that is relevant to your customers and that's relevant to you and how you would speak. Same thing with the teaching points and the story and the pain and solving problems. It's as long as it follows that structure, I still want them to have a good say and good input in terms of the final product.
Yeah. Nice. So say there's a service company that comes to you and says like, hey, I really like what you're doing. And you're like, hey, kind of fit yourself in this framework. And they come back and they're like, okay, how do I even start that process? What would like your first kind of tip be for them to like just start going through that?
Would you say like in terms of content ideas, like what to come up with? Perfect. So really good question with that. I would always start with thinking of your customer first. So really try to be very empathetic and understanding of your customer and what stage of the sales process essentially they're in, right? So some people maybe be aware that they have a problem, but they aren't aware that there's a solution yet that they can implement to solve that. So what I like to do a lot is when I work with these clients and these businesses is to help them create content that is made around a customer that is problem aware. So they know that, okay, look, I'm trying to market my business right now. I don't have a steady stream of leads. I don't have a pipeline of customers to pull from or to reach from. How can I establish that, right? So for me, in my mind, if I'm trying to market to that person, I'm trying to think about, okay, what are their pain points? What are their struggles? And again, the reason that I chose to work with these service businesses is because, again, I'm almost marketing to myself. So I know all these pain points. I know the struggles of like, man, like, I don't know where my next client's going to come from. Like, I have to go do outreach or I have to do all these different methods to try to find another client. Like, this is stressful. So if I can create an ad that is messaged and touches on all those pain points, as soon as I hear that and I'm the ideal customer, I'm going to say, oh my gosh, this person knows me. They know my pain points. They know where I'm coming from. They know all these things. Like, I need to listen to them, right? I need to find out, like, how can they help me? So what I would always recommend to these companies is define who your ideal customer is first in terms of everything, their age, their demographic, their background, their pain points, all of these things. If you can just radically understand them and be empathetic with that person and the point that they're at, then you can be able to create messaging that resonates with them and reaches them, right? It's all about that connection in terms of being able to speak to someone. And you hear all the time, like no one cares about how much you know until they know how much you care. Yep. So if you can show people how much you care about them and understand them first, and then you can kind of provide them value or educate them or do something beyond that, it's a great foot in the door. You just show them that, hey, I understand you. I understand where you're coming from. I was there too, right? I have the same struggles and I did this to overcome them, or I tried this and now I have a different outcome, right? It's just understanding and empathizing where they're at and where they're starting from. And that's really how I try to connect and be able to reach people.
Yeah. So you kind of brought it up again. I'll go around to the other question I was going to ask you, or I guess it's more of a statement into a question. But introduced you to me via Instagram, and we were at a different event too, and we were kind of picking on you. Like, once you like meet Nick, you will never stop seeing his ads. So with that being said, though, like it's not a bad thing by any way. It's an amazing thing, to be quite honest. And that's why, like, being in the financial services industry, it's a little bit harder. We have a lot of hoops to jump through. But once I jump through those hoops, like, you're my guy to call. And so Sasha and Mike, who was on here last week, even they were like, hey, we see you all the time. You clearly know what you're doing. There's no other person that I'm going to call other than you because you're already doing it perfectly. So one, kudos, because you're actually able to show the product you're able to provide to others on Instagram.
Right.
And so the next part of that into the question, this is probably like a higher level question, but how important are those retargeting ads for people to see you come up multiple times?
Yeah. Thank you for that, by the way, man. Really, every time you tell me this, I always get a good laugh out of it. And I love when people bring that up because I just like to think about how powerful it is to just be top of mind with people, right? To constantly be showing up, right? Those touch points, right, are so important, especially when you have a business, right? And my mission is to be able to help people and to serve them as much as I can. So if I want to do that, what do I need to do? I need to show up in front of people as much as possible, right? I need to make sure that my messaging is dialed in and is very specific to the person that I can help and the person that I can get results for.
Right.
So I think for me, it's very important to, like you said, kind of demonstrate like, hey, look, like if I'm able to create this and do this for my own business, right, and it's working for me and creating a result that I want, what's to say that just because it worked for me, like, do you think it would work for you in your instance, in your circumstance, right, if you applied the same sort of principles or the same sort of strategies? Right. So that's the way I like to think about it. And then your question, remind me in terms of?
The importance of retargeting.
Oh, yeah. So when it comes to retargeting, I'd say, again, it's another touch point. And the way I like to structure things is it's not everything, but it is a part of the process, right? Like if you have a retargeting campaign set up, essentially someone has seen your initial ad or one piece of your content, and then now I'm going to show them another piece of content, right? So the fact that I'm aware of this and I know, okay, I have the ability to create an ad where I can show it to people that have never seen me before. And I also know that of those people that have watched that video that have never seen me, I have the ability to set up another video that will show to them. So I understand that, okay, I can show someone who doesn't know me, who's never heard of me, doesn't know my name, doesn't know I exist. I can show them a video, make them aware of who I am. And then after they're aware of me, I can show them another video, and I can speak to them in completely different messaging because they're already aware of who I am. They're aware that there's a problem at hand, right? Like, hey, I'm struggling to market my business and I don't know how to get new clients. So I think the power just lies in knowing that you have the ability to do those things, and then how can you optimize it or kind of shift it into a way that it works to your advantage. So, okay, I can show you an initial ad like I mentioned, and then with a retargeting ad, I can film a completely different video that is made specifically to be shown in that spot, and I can film it in a strategic way, right, that is optimized to like, okay, this person already knows who I am, so I can speak to them a lot more directly, right? I don't have to preface a lot of the things I'm saying. So I think it's just powerful to know that you have the ability to do those things, and once you know that, okay, how can I kind of orchestrate it and use it in a way where it's going to lead to the next step in my sales process, or the next step in my process, essentially.
Yeah.
So I'm always the quiet one. I like to sit back and listen and learn. When you make your, like, for yourself or for your client, when you're making these ads, in your head, are you already storyboarding what that retargeting ad is going to look like? Or are you just, hey, we're shooting this, we're going to figure out how to reach the first group, and once we've done that and we've seen the analytics, then do you figure out what your second ad is going to be?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of the time it comes back to the frameworks again. So there's certain principles and certain frameworks that I like to stick to, but at the same time, I could give you the exact playbook that I'm using for myself personally, for my business, and just hand it to you. Tell you, hey, Chris, go do this, go film all the videos, say the exact same thing, and run it, and we would both get completely different results, right? So the name of the game is testing. Just test things, right? Like I do this all the time. A lot of the times I'll film with my iPhone, right? It's just quick and it's easy. I'll film on my stories and post the video. And then what I'll do is I'll test that video later on and run it as an ad and just see what kind of feedback or see what kind of results I can get from it. It's just a low barrier of entry way for me to do it, right? Because sometimes I don't want to grab the camera and set it up, and then I know, okay, once I film this, I'm going to have to edit it. I'm going to have to do all these things. If I can just pick my phone up and kind of film something personal, I think that seems to work well as a retargeting ad, right? As a second touch point. So I can establish myself with a professional video first, right? With a new audience. And then as a retargeting ad, I can hit it with a more personal approach, right? Like it's more intimate. It's more, if I'm just filming on my iPhone, right here in front of me, people kind of feel like, oh, you're just talking to me, right? Yeah. So in terms of that, I do like to think about it, but again, it's like, you always just want to test just to make sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I know some people, like, in general, when they go to make a concept, they're like, okay, this is the, mile up aspect. This is what we're shooting for. This is what we're going. And they shoot. And I'm like, in this new day and age, I realize that it works sometimes, but being more fluid in the situation, I just wanted people to hear it from someone who's in that. It's like, you can't always just say, hey, we're going to schedule out all this. Because I feel like one, I don't watch commercials anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I think those ads that are, yes, I know they're an ad, but I feel like the ones that are set up more as like a non-commercial feel more genuine. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me have a look at it. Like I kept seeing an ad for like a suitcase because I'm like, oh, it's holiday season. I understand there. I'm like, I don't need another suitcase. Is there any way I can like switch this one off and just give me something totally different? Because it's the same thing over and over.
Yeah. UGC has been crazy too because they'll get me and I'll like look in the corner and be like, oh, it is sponsored.
Those are the sneakiest ones, right? When you don't really suspect it. You don't, right? It catches you off guard. But I think that's a really good point you brought up is just if the name of the game is kind of to stand out and to get your customers' attention, you just have to remember that the marketplace is constantly changing, right? Social media is constantly changing. So as you mentioned, like UGC is like very popular, right? And people see that. Over time, everyone's going to adapt to that UGC trend, and then that becomes the trend. That becomes the norm. So if your goal is to stand out, right, and to get people's attention, you have to do something different than from what everyone else is doing. So if you can just keep a pulse on, okay, what is everyone else doing? What do they have going on? How can I be different? How can I stand out? Because again, the name of the game is just standing out and being different. It's not necessarily doing what the trend is, right? Depending on what your goal is, right? If your goal is to maybe go viral or your goal is to follow these trends and do that sort of thing, that's fine. But if your goal is to build a business, right, and to stand out to your customers, then you have to take kind of a different approach from what everyone else is doing following trends, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So when you were coming up with these like frameworks and everything, is that something you just kind of like developed with trial and error, or is there like kind of like a honey hole that you kind of go back to like, hey, this is my guy that like I get a lot of my stuff from? 'Cause like that's how I am for a lot of my stuff. It's like, hey, this guy tends to be really good in this area, so I'm going to go there for this part, or like this person's really good at it, so like I'm going to go for him for my life insurance tips. Is that similar for you, or is it just like constant trial and error?
Yeah, really good question. So I really like to. I have certain people that I love to get certain information from in terms of marketing or in terms of like specific sources. But what I've found over time is that a lot of people are kind of putting their own spin on the same sort of concepts and the same sort of principles. Right. So like you mentioned, like that kind of high level view of everything, if you can always keep that perspective in mind and just realize even the people that you look up to and you see as, wow, these people are like incredible, they're great speakers, they have a great message, even the things that they're talking about it's nothing new, right? They're just putting their own spin on it, their own unique way of portraying that message. So what I found is that if I can always just look at someone and say, okay, like this is the way they think, this is how they have vocalized it and verbalized it and put it into a way that I can understand and resonate with, that's powerful, right? So even the messaging that you create and the things that you say, right, they're gonna resonate with certain people a certain way. So I do, to answer your question, I do have certain people and sources that I like to absorb information from just because I feel like I resonate with those people and I relate with them. So I kind of listen to their information a little more in depth, right? So I think it's unique to everyone. Like, again, I could just give you the list of like, hey, here are the top 5 people that I always watch their stuff, but their content is no different from a broader perspective in terms of the content itself, right? It's all the same information. They're just putting a spin on it that I resonate with and I like to listen to.
Yeah, no, and you brought up something perfect, and I'm glad you did because I was hoping to bring you into that. Because there's people that I listen to, and they do exactly what you do, essentially, in different ways, shape, and form. And they talk about the hook, story, offer, framework, and everything like that, too. Here's the thing. I've been studying that for years because I think it's fascinating. I suck at it. I'm not good at it. Like you are. So like you could go and watch those people all day long, but it doesn't mean you're going to be any good at it. Like you need to find the person who actually resonates how to put it into practice. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. Like I love listening to their stuff. I can't do it. So like that's why I needed Nick to do that for me. So it's just finding the right person that's able to actually put those pieces of information into practice. Just because you have the info doesn't mean you're able to connect with it and make it actually actionable.
That's very important. And just one disclaimer I'll throw out there. If anybody claims that it is their information or their knowledge, it's like, oh, I'm the only one that has developed this, run. Don't walk away from them, run away from them, right? Because if anybody is claiming that, you already know right off the bat, like, you didn't come up with this, right? There's no way. Like how long have we all been here, this universe, this earth, like, and you're claiming this is your information? It's like, come on.
Right, yeah. Just because you use different words to say it, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I just try to keep in mind there's nothing necessarily new out there specifically, but just use your best judgment, right? If you can find someone that, again, you resonate with the way that they communicate and the way that they can get a message across, then as long as you receive the information and you can make it actionable and use it, that's really what's important.
Yeah.
So as a, it's off topic kind of question. What do you use to edit? Are you a Final Cut or a Premiere person?
This is the big debate, right?
I know.
That's what we use.
I know people who use both,
Yep.
and I'm like, okay, understandable. But I'm always curious, like when I meet someone who's in the editing sector, especially in video, like what is your preference?
So I use Premiere Pro.
Okay.
So I'm an Adobe guy, but I will say I started with just iMovie on a basic laptop, right? And iMovie kind of translates to Final Cut, I want to say. So the same fundamentals, right? Even with Premiere, like Premiere is a stacked software and they edit Hollywood movies in it. It has all these features in it, but it has all the basic essentials that you need. You can cut a clip, you can, tweak audio, you can add visual effects, audio. It has all these features to it. So you can really start with anything. You can start with a free software. As long as you have the ability to import footage, edit it, it's nice to have all those extra features, but I do like to use Premiere myself.
For those, like I said, I like to hear where you guys are at now, because people are always like, oh, well, I have to start with this material, or I have to, and like same with me and Tyler with the podcast. We've been doing this for 3 years, and we were like, we can't start until we have this much money. We can buy this equipment. And we're always telling people like, no, all you need is a mic and a way to take all this information in. You don't have to have a camera. You can have a phone, and it's slow growth points. I mean, we've been doing it, and each year we add something new to the podcast. And it's same with, I guess, what you're saying too, is like, you don't have to know how to run Premiere. You don't have to know how to run Final Cut. You start with the basics, learn how to do those things. And then as you get better, aka you're charging more for your stuff and your expertise, you should be learning more to get better and use higher end material, I guess.
100%. I think 0 to 1 is like the hardest jump, right? From doing nothing to just starting something is the hardest thing. But again, from 0 to 1, you still have 1 to 100. Right?
Yes.
So until you actually start, just like you said, like all these people might think, oh man, I don't have the perfect this or the perfect that. So you never start and you never create that feedback loop, the cycle, right? Like once you start doing something, you will then get feedback that tells you, okay, what you're doing is producing the result you want, or what you're doing is not producing the result you want.
Sure.
If it's not producing the result you want, then you need to look at what did I do and what do I need to change? What do I need to iterate? But if you never start, then you never know what to change or what to do, right? Yeah. So the best thing you can do is exactly like you said, just start with whatever you have.
Yes.
So kind of what we're talking about now, just kind of take that and looking towards the future, is with what you're doing now, what's kind of the next goal that you're looking to accomplish within your business?
Yeah, the next goal for me is to really develop a strong team and to bring people in that can not only help me, but that excel at what they do so that I can help my clients in the way that I see best fit. Like I enjoy to be with my clients and give them my full attention when I'm with them. And if we're on a shoot and I have to be setting up the camera and kind of getting these B-roll shots, it's there's a disconnect, right? I kind of lose that connection. So I think in order for me to be able to give my clients the best experience that I want to give them, I need to have a team around me who is also good at what they do so that they can perform, they can shine at what they're best at. And I can be freed up and be able to do what is going to give my clients the best experience. So I want to build a team, and I say that because I want to give my clients a better experience. That's kind of the basis of what is driving that desire to like build a team around me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm always curious because you're talking about building a team. What is like, because I mean, you're amazing at what you do, obviously. Otherwise, Tyler wouldn't know where you're at, or we wouldn't have so many people saying such great things about you. But what's that next person that you're looking to add to your team look like?
Man, thank you for that, Chris. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, so right now I have Bradley, my great friend over here. He's been helping out a ton with the videography side of things, photography. He can also edit, which is a great asset. And in terms of what I'm doing now is heavily helping clients create content, to edit the content, and then be able to post it and implement it. So for me to do that more effectively, having a videographer is huge. Having some sort of virtual assistant essentially to help with some repetitive tasks in terms of creating scripts and refining things and just setting up things on the back end for clients is very important. And then marketing. So I kind of look at like marketing, sales, and then fulfillment for the clients are like the main things. So if I can just build out kind of teams and processes around those key things, I think is going to be the most beneficial. But I think I already have a virtual assistant. I have a video editor. I have a videographer to help with those things. So I kind of have like a small team right now. I think down the road, the next big jump from like a 2 to 4 person team would be maybe like an 8 or a 12 or a 16 person team. And that might look a little bit differently. So I think to hire more and expand more, it would take restructuring kind of that team structure, like maybe more of a client success manager type of role.
Gotcha.
Whereas, okay, I can market and sell the services, and then once I bring on a new client, hey, I'm going to hand you over to our client success manager, and they're going to make sure that your fulfillment is taken care of and you receive everything and you get the results that you're looking for. So I think that would probably be the next sort of hire to start looking at.
You kind of touched on something real quick too, and it made me think of a different question. So this is a slight pivot. You talked about like writing scripts. Mm-hmm. So when you created a script, or you and the client create a script for your video marketing, if this is the very first time that someone was on camera, is that like a learning curve for them? Like how to show up on camera and how to show up in front of, like, does that take like a learning curve for them, or is it typically pretty quick? Like they're already talking, they're pretty good.
I'll say a lot of people have a pretty good idea and kind of understanding of a good way to communicate like on camera. But for people that it's kind of foreign to, I think just through consuming content and watching social media, they kind of get an idea of like what resonates, what seems fake or what seems more authentic. So sometimes warming up a little bit and just kind of getting comfortable with the person, like just kind of chatting and hanging out beforehand before we turn the camera on right away and start filming with the lights right in your face is helpful. But everyone's different, right? Everyone is going to be different from that aspect. But what I like to try to do is make it as comfortable as possible for them. So we can shoot more of the, structured, sitting down, very professional looking content. And that looks great. But I think in terms of like filming ads specifically, right? If you want to be in a more of a laid back environment, or versus just having a camera set up and you're just reading a script, okay, why don't we just have you read a couple lines in this scene and then we'll cut to another scene and cut to another scene. So it's more of an engaging type of video. So I think it comes down to the individual and how they perform on camera, what they're most comfortable with. And then what is the best way that we can portray that message and kind of speak to the customer? Because again, that's the main goal, is to make that content for the customer. So once we establish who the customer is, what their pain points are, what kind of angle we want to hit that customer with, how can we create a video? What's going to be the best way to package that, essentially? Whether it is like a scripted, kind of formal, sitting down, talking to the camera type of video, or if it's a more dynamic, hey, I want to show you like hands-on kind of what's going on here type of video. So it varies a lot.
Yeah. So going to go a little bit from kind of what you do and kind of take a step back. So when you first moved to Wilmington and you clearly had clients and everything that you had up in Virginia Beach, when you came down here, was it basically just using your own services to advertise to other people to get clients here, or is there a lot of like personal outreach and trying to grow the business for yourself?
Yeah. So once I got down here, that is when I started really diving heavily into learning the marketing and business aspects of just business in general. So learning that information is when I could really start developing better messaging, creating better content that is specific to my customers that I want to reach, and also using kind of the skills of paid advertising that I had learned in the past. So I haven't talked much about this, but I actually ran like e-commerce brands in the past where I was selling physical products, and using Facebook ads was the main way to do that. So I mean, I've been running ads on Facebook and Instagram since probably 2017, 2018. Okay. So again, it just came down to kind of learning all these skills and developing them over time, and then having the right combination of skills to be able to combine them and use them all together, right? Using the content creation, using the paid ad strategy, learning the messaging, learning the marketing. Once you have all those skills, you can stack them together, and then you can kind of create something beyond that. So to answer your question, I did kind of start like you said, kind of using my own services and kind of validating it for myself and saying, okay, look, I'm going to try this marketing approach. I'm going to try this strategy and see what kind of results I can get for it. Okay, if it's producing the results I want, what's to say that I can't apply this to a different industry or apply it to a different business and just still have those frameworks and those principles, but use the same strategy to kind of get the result that you want.
Yeah, that's great.
So one of my last questions for you, and you've kind of touched on this previously, but what does success look like for you? And I'm twofold, like one for you personally as a business, but then also what does it look like if you're working with a client? Like what would success, how would you feel like you'd been successful working with like a partner or a client?
Yeah, I like that question, man, in terms of success. So I like to look at it a couple different ways. So success for me, I like setting a goal and seeing, okay, can I reach this goal? Can I back engineer? Like, okay, I'm going to set this goal for my business, whether it's a revenue number or whether it's a certain amount of clients to work with in a month or in a year. And then how can I go from where I'm at now to that goal? If I can successfully take myself to my current, from my current state to the state that I want to be at, I see that as success. But beyond that, I get more enjoyment from seeing my clients do well and for them to be happy and them to really learn and understand what it is, why they're doing it, right? Like I want people to understand how to think and not what to think, right? Because I can just send you scripts and tell you, okay, read these, record it to the camera, post it, we'll edit it, boom. But they're not really left with an understanding. The passion isn't there, right? When you understand why you're scripting a video in a certain way or why you're saying a hook and doing all these things, when you understand why you're doing it, okay, I want to get someone's attention because I have a message that I really want to deliver to them. Like I know I can help a specific group of people, and for me to be able to do that, I have to grab their attention in the first 3 seconds. So what do I need to do? I need to deliver a strong hook so that I can really connect with them and pull them in and tell them, hey, look, I can help you in some sort of way, right? Like that's why I run ads, right? Like I'm trying to get the attention of these people that I know I can help. There's so many people out there that need help, and if I can just reach them and I can be able to kind of use that method, right? Like hook them and grab their attention and then be able to deliver a message to them and leave a call to action to say, hey, look, if this sounds like you or if you're interested and you want to learn more, take this next step. So I think if I can help people kind of get the results that they're looking to get, that is absolutely what success would look like for me.
Nice.
So since we're looking forward a little bit, we're going to take you a step back. If you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Wow, one thing, right? That's a great question too. It would be something along the lines of don't overthink, right? Just start and kind of learn as you go, right? Like not everyone's going to have things figured out. And again, like it's so easy with social media to compare and to look at other people. And I always try to remind myself, when I see someone that is successful and is established and is doing well, or at least they portray themselves that way, and that's the way I view them, I need to remember that, hey, maybe this person has been in the game for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, right? If I'm a brand new business and I just started 3 months ago, I can't expect to have the same results that this person has that's been in the game for 10, 20 years. Yeah. So just don't always compare yourself to other people and just compete with yourself internally, right? Like I would probably tell myself that, like just compete with yourself. Because if you set your goals and you reach your goals and that's what's going to make you happy, then trying to compare to someone else and meet some external standard or someone else's idea of success or happiness or whatever that is, you're always going to be chasing the next thing. So if you can just control what you can control, I think that'll be a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast and we kind of structured it the way that we do, is because so many times, and I always use the story of like Jay-Z because it was one of the ones that I heard. And when he was telling his story one time, it was a super short interview. But what he said was like, how'd you become Jay-Z? And he was like, oh, well, like I started out like cleaning bathrooms or something and this thing. And then someone like brought me into a studio one day and I like hit a few bars and like one thing led to another and now I'm Jay-Z. And I'm like, I think you skipped a few spots there. It was like, yeah, we all see like ourselves now as like the person cleaning the bathrooms, right? It was like, but what were those steps, like the actual boring grind that got you to where you are now. So you kind of spelled that out perfectly of kind
That's
of
huge.
like,
Yeah,
hey, it's just taking those first steps and just staying with it and just knowing that everyone else that you see that is successful had to go through those same steps too.
Yes.
Like the only overnight success took 10 years. Like
Absolutely. The only thing I'll add to that is just start, right? Like just start moving in that direction. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. Like people, it's so easy to just you need to adjust your expectations and really your perception of like time and how long things will take, right? If you can have the understanding that, hey, look, this isn't going to happen overnight, this is going to take a long time, then you can just focus on making each day like a good day, because you're not focused on, oh, tomorrow it's going to happen, or tomorrow. Your goal is now shifted towards, how can I do the most today, or how can I do the best that I can do on this day, and then how can I do that every day? And then you'll look back and you'll be like, oh, it's no wonder I've achieved what I've achieved now, because every single day I did the best that I could, right?
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. The other part too that I was thinking about like a few months ago is the people that typically do hit that like actual like overnight success are typically like a one-hit wonder type of thing. It's like she's only going to be known for that, and how far is that actually going to bring her? And just like the people that win like $1 million in the Powerball, they were able to make a whole entire show about people that made hundreds of millions of dollars and lost it all within a couple years.
Yep.
So there is an importance of taking those small incremental steps and enjoying every single part of that process. So I'm glad you brought up the way that you did.
Yeah, the quicker you rise, the quicker you fall, right?
Exactly.
Like you want to go slow and steady, right? You'll develop yourself over time. You'll be able to handle it once you get there.
Right.
You'll be able to maintain it, right? Versus if you just shoot up there, you're probably going to shoot right back down.
Right, yeah. That's where the imposter syndrome comes from.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's a good point.
So for those who don't get your ads yet, or in general for those who want to use your services, where can people find you?
Yeah, Instagram would be a great place to just follow me there, shoot me a DM. I'm always open to chat with people. I could sit here all day and talk with you guys about this. So if you just shoot me a message and start a conversation with me, we'll talk forever.
Yeah.
So that's a great starting point.
Perfect.
We'll drop those in the show notes for you.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Anytime.
Well, yeah. For all those who listened, thank you. Happy holidays. Just want to shout out. Thanks for showing up, Nick.
Thank you for having me, you guys.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
For everybody, like, comment, share, subscribe, and catch you in the next one.
Cheers.
Cheers.